full screen. F5 full screen करो. कैसे इसको ऊपर ऊपर रहता है. Morning friends, today we will start our revision classes, and I think one of the most important revision classes which we'll be having is today's lecture, because if you do not understand the concepts of health and disease, you will not be able to do anything in community medicine. Also, from the point of view of examinations, then there is always one question which comes from this particular chapter, and even if you understand this chapter well, you will be able to answer everything in community medicine, because if you understand the concept of disease, and then after that you understand the concepts of prevention, you will be able to answer everything. Basically, when we talk about health basically is a fundamental right and a worldwide social goal. It is essential for satisfaction of basic human needs and an improved quality of life. So we've had this slogan of health for all by 2000. 2000 is already over 20 years ago, but health for all is still a dream. So what are the concepts of health? This is another question with short note which comes in. Concepts of health. It comes as a full-length question also. Concepts of health. So there are various concepts of health, and as you know, if you go through the history of health, you will find that earlier we had this question. People used to think that all disease is due to certain blessings or curses from above, from the Almighty. After that, slowly they started thinking of miasmas. Miasmas mean some smells, some breeze, some waves, some like we have the corona wave, which is there. But yes, there was some idea behind that everything is due to. Then people went through various stages where it was thought that there was an association between disease and poverty. Especially when the Industrial Revolution took place, there was the Poor's Law, etc. A lot of things which then went on. Then after that, slowly we developed various concepts on health. One of the concepts of health is the biomedical concept, the biological portion, the biomedical concept. The second is the ecological concept. That means that environment or ecology plays a very major portion in health. The other is there's a psychosocial component of health. If you see what we believe in today, that's a holistic concept, that all these things play a part. The psychosocial concept, like if you see, look at bronchial asthma, or whether you say look at various other diseases, there's always a psychosocial element to disease. But so one of the concepts which is there is that most diseases are due to psychosocial reasons. So ultimately, it's a holistic concept which we think of. So Today's idea of this lecture is purely a revision lecture and clear your ideas towards health and disease. Okay. So simple definition of health, you must mug this up, but understand it also that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Please mug this up. This is one thing which I'll request you to mug up, because if people keep on asking this question in the exam, in the vivas, you should be able to rattle it out. So, but this concept of health requires a lot of additions. It has now been expanded to include ability to lead a socially and economically productive life, or various other things which are there, which we will talk about subsequently. So when you look at dimension, again a short note which keeps coming, that is dimensions of health. First I told you concepts of health comes as a short note. Again, this is dimensions of health, which again comes as a short note. Where short note or a full length question for that matter, where you have the physical, mental, social, spiritual, emotional, vocational. See, all these things play a part in your health. If all these things are properly looked after, or you say that you are healthy only if you're physically fit, you're mentally fit, if you're socially, you are adaptable to society, if you're spiritually in a very good frame of spiritual health, emotionally you're okay, and your vocation, you have to have a job to fulfill your daily needs. So all these things are very, very important. So many non-medical dimensions are there. Then we were we talked about dimensions of health, and now we're talking about determinants of health. Please, there are these. The English is a very complex word. So let me try and what did we tell? First, we talked about concepts. Concepts means, when you're talking about concept, means what is the different types of things which the concept, I mean, where you can think of what are the different types of items which by which health can be done. I mean, you can possibly think that health is due to by a medical concept of various other things. Then we talked about dimensions. Dimensions of health was basically what are the various aspects of health, various aspects of health in a person. When will he feel healthy? He will feel healthy physically or mentally or socially or spiritually, emotionally or vocationally. Those are the dimensions of health. Determinants is what will determine, in just simple English language, what is going to determine whether you will be healthy. What? So please try. You many a time we find that when we ask these questions in the exam, in the theory exam, instead of writing dimensions of health, you write the determinants of health. Instead of writing determinants of health, you write the concepts of health. So the determinants of health basically are, if you look at it, you have got the biological determinant, the behavioral and socio-cultural determinants, environment. The environment plays a role in our health. Behavior and socio-culture also plays a role in our health. Socio-economic status plays an important role in determining whether a person remains healthy or not. Whether there is healthcare facilities available, that's also very, very important to decide whether a person remains healthy. You can remain in a place where is no healthcare facility only till the time that you suffer from a disease. Once you suffer from a disease, if your healthcare facility is very close by, then you will definitely be cured much faster, in most cases. Or even gender, there are so many diseases which are there for particular gender. So we will just go into a little bit details about the concepts of health. We earlier mentioned that we have got ecological concept, the sociological concept, the medical concept of health. And so the social concept of health, when we talk about, we have three words again. See, community medicine is full of words, and these words you must need to understand. I mean, if I'm examiner, I don't want exact definitions, but I want you to understand. And these three words, please remember: what is disease, what is illness, and what is sickness. A disease is physiological. is a physiological or psychosocial dysfunction. Illness means I am feeling ill, is a subjective feeling, is a subjective state of the person. Disease is actual something physiological problem. Illness is I am feeling unwell, I am feeling malay. Malay is not a disease, it's a symptom. So illness is a subjective state of the person, and sickness is a state of social dysfunction. That means that due to the disease, the person is sick. A sickness role is assumed by the individual. He is sick. He assumes that role. Okay. Okay. Now we will not go into great details about the concept of causation. Does come as a short note. Please read it up at the concept of causation. As I told you earlier, there was the divine concept. Then Hippocrates came in, and Hippocrates had this humoral imbalance. In between, we had the miasmatic theory, where the miasmas, the smells were the cause. Then there was the theory of whether poor people are the one who suffer because they have got poor morals. There lots of theories like that. Then there's Fracastorius who came up with the contagion theory, and then we will talk in later on regarding how we had Koch's postulates, etc. We'll talk about that. This is the basis of all but that we talk about in community medicine. This triangle. You heard about the love triangle. You have got various other triangles which are there. Please don't. We will now talk about only. We want you to concentrate on the epidemiological triangle, which is there, which is the agent, host, and environment. Please remember this is very, very important. It is there everywhere. Agent, host, environment. Whenever you're answering an exam, again, when you're answering an exam, please remember when you asked epidemiology, this is what we're asking you. When you ask epidemiology, one portion of it deals with how many cases are there, the incidence, and where it is occurred, and all that, and the rest is all your agent, host, and environment. And then when we write of prevention, we'll talk about prevention subsequently. But agent, host, environment. This is what you need to write. You break it up every exam. You asked for example, you're told for epidemiology of say rheumatic fever. You talk about agent, host, environment, or you asked about epidemiology of diabetes. What's the agent? There's no specific agent in diabetes, but we have, as far as the host is concerned, we have various genetic factors which are responsible for diabetes. And environment plays a huge role because of the fact that you have to look at how active is he, what is the food nutrition he takes, what various things which are there. We'll talk lifestyle problems which are there. So agent host environment plays a very important role. So let's just run through this agent host environment as we have done it earlier. Biological factors, nutrient factors, physical factors, chemical agents, mechanical agents, and social agents. Please remember all these. I mean, it's not difficult to remember. Biological agents are the ones which you'll always remember. Biological agents. Now, what happens now? For example, when we have COVID, we find that COVID was very active, was leading to a large number of deaths earlier, while now at the present moment is leading to less number of deaths. Why so? And that answer comes in the answer is in these three determinants of biological agents, that is infectivity, pathogenicity, and virulence. How much will one person infect the other? What we are talking about when we talk about in R naught. You have heard about R naught. If you're not heard, please read up about R naught. R naught is how much will one person who is there, how many persons will he infect? So that is R naught, infectivity. How pathogenic is this organism? Is this organism so person gets infected, will it go and travel through his body and create problems? And how strong is this organism? Will the body defenses be able to destroy this organism? The virulence. What has happened in what we notice now today is that as far as COVID is concerned, we notice that the death rate is going down. Why is it so? Has the infectivity gone down? No. Has the pathogenicity gone down? Possibly. Has the virulence gone down? Yes. So this is what we have need to see. Now, nutrient factors, you're aware about nutrient factors. You're all, most of you girls especially are all dieting, so you'll know about nutrition a lot. Nutrient agents cause a lot of diseases. Also, again going back to the COVID scenario, today it is said that those people who are obese, who are consuming a huge amount of nutrients, are more likely to suffer from severe aspects of COVID. So nutrition plays a lot of role, whether it be in in childhood, for when you're looking at protein energy malnutrition, marasmus, kwashiorkor, or in adults where there's overnutrition and undernutrition. Physical agents means anything which can physically create problems. You cut yourself, that's a physical problem which is there. You have items to say like all the cold effects, pneumoconiosis, all due to dust. Physical agent. Chemical agents can be endogenous and exogenous. Now, chemical agents which are endogenous are things which can create problems from inside the body, and exogenous is you take from outside and then it will create problems. So the photograph is there of frostbite, again a physical agent, that where you have um, a decreased amount of temperature, severe temperature, frostbite and chilblains. We have covered it in our classes earlier. Frostbite results from decreased temperature. Okay. Mechanical agents. We talked. I mean, in various like for example, person working in a factory. He has got various things which are moving parts. Suddenly they can cut a finger. Mechanical agent can result. Social agents. You have social problems, social ostracization, resulting in people not being able to possibly not being permitted to take water, or for that matter various other things which are there. Social problems where can result in a lot of issues. Okay, now agent we finished. We talked about the host. And when we talk about the host, you are well aware that age, sex, ethnicity is a big issue as far as the host is concerned. Age, you have various diseases depending on the age of the persons. Males get some diseases, females get ethnicity. You have more diseases in some ethnic groups. Some people who are the blacks have a different sort of disease. The people with who are the Western world has different diseases. A person from India may be more, there are more chances of him being resistant to a lot of diseases, but we are more prone, appear to be more prone to tuberculosis. Okay. So biological can be genetic factors, biochemical factors, and immunological factors, immunity as such. Social and economic factors also here can play a role, and lifestyle is very important as far as very many diseases are concerned. I'm not going into details because this is a revision lecture. Environmental factors, again, physical, biological, and psychosocial, where we already talked about a few of them, but anyhow, water quality, toxic waste, outdoor air quality, global environment, homes, whether there is overcrowding or not, infrastructure, this is all. Okay. Now, when we talk about concepts of causation, another shortcut which keeps coming, concepts of causation. Now, this is a particular slide which will cover all those concepts which normally we expect you to write in an exam. However, I'll be very happy if you write even epidemiological triad, multifactorial causation, and web of causation. These three are the most important portions which are there. The other ones, please read up about. I had slides about epidemiological wheel, but I've hidden these slides. I've had slides on Being's theory. Please read up about them. Those of you who want to score extra marks, please read up about it. What we will talk about is the germ theory, where we have Louis Pasteur, who propagated this thing that if there is a disease agent, this disease agent can be isolated. It causes disease in man. If this is introduced again into man, it can again cause disease in man. So this is a basic theory, germ theory, which Louis Pasteur sorry, Louis Pasteur only said that disease agents cause disease, and it was later on Koch who postulated that it's a particular germ theory, which he called it. Okay, okay. So that's what the Koch's postulate, or the Henle-Koch postulate, that each disease will be caused by a germ. The germ is essential for that disease to be caused. By introducing that germ, the disease can be caused in animals experimentally, and that germ can again be isolated from the sick animal and experimented with. This is the broad guidelines which Koch thought was right. Today there are certain amendments, because some diseases are there which can occur only in humans, some diseases are there which take place only in animals. So the germ theory was modified a number of times, and we are well aware of that. Okay. So the epidemiological triad then came on, which was by Lavel and Clark, who explained the natural history of disease and then gave the levels of prevention. So basically, there's a balance between the which is there between the agent, host, and environment, and that is what we call health. When the disbalance takes place, you get disease. So Pettenkofer came up with the multifactorial causation of disease. Koch was very clear, it's only germs. But does that explain various other diseases? It doesn't explain. So many diseases it doesn't explain, which I told you when we were taking the main class. There are not a lot of examples. I will not go into it. So then there are other factors which are involved, and even if it is only agent, host, and environment, many of these factors are multiple in nature, and hence we find the multifactorial causation, which is socioeconomic factors, cultural factors, genetic factors, psychological factors. Just example is coronary artery disease. You find, if you just think about it, there are so many factors: hypertension, excess fat intake, smoking, lack of physical exercise. These are some of the factors. If you really go into further detail for multifactorial causation, you find that each of these factors is linked to each other. Smoking is linked to increased cholesterol in the body. Fat intake is also linked to that. Fat intake can result in lining of the arteries. It can result in hypertension, and so everything is lack of physical exercise can lead to further problems. We'll talk about that when we talk about a web of causation of disease. That is, McMahon is the one who propagated this web of causation of disease, and each factor has its own relative importance in causing the final departure from the state of health, and as well as interacts with others, modifying the effect of each factor. So these factors, web of causation of disease, when you talk about multifactorial, or you talk about Koch's postulate, you cannot explain causation for non-communicable diseases or IHD and things of the sort. So no single agent causes IHD. So we have to think of various things, and when we talk about these various things, we try, and if you put it on a board, you will find that one factor is linked to the other factor, and then we have a web which forms on. Like for example, here we have tried to make this thing which is there, that stress, within stress person smokes, and smoking can cause coronary occlusion through various stages. Lifestyle issues cause obesity, hyperlipidemia, coronary atherosclerosis, and causes coronary occlusion. Stress also leads to emotional disturbance, hypertension, change in the arteries. So all these things can result. Aging also can result. So this doesn't look like a web, but when we really go to see the web of causation, if you really put it down on a paper, you will find everything is interlinked. And because of this interlinking which is there, we call it the web of causation of disease. Web of causation of disease. Okay. I hope you've understood this web of causation of disease. This is okay. The other thing which keeps coming in exams is the iceberg phenomena. The iceberg phenomena in human diseases. Basically, whatever you see, whatever is the disease which is diagnosed, is only a very small component of the actual disease which is present in the society. That is basically what is the iceberg. And if you really you want to, if in an iceberg, you have only the tip of the iceberg being seen because it is floating inside the water, and a huge portion of it is below the water. Yeah. So we have so the iceberg phenomena. You see this, where you have a, a small portion who have died, a little larger portion which have got clinical illness, but a huge amount of people who are there who are asymptomatic or invisible cases which are there. They may be carriers, which we'll talk about later, but the huge amount of people which are below who are so what we in community medicine want to do is to identify these people who are the asymptomatic people or the invisible carriers, and to apply certain preventive measures so that they do not enter into disease and death. So for that, what we need to do is to know the natural history of disease. How will disease progress? What happens when a person gets infected, and when will he get infected? So it's very important. These, please remember, natural history of disease and prevention of disease. If you understand the concept of this, of natural history of disease and prevention of disease, you can answer all questions of community medicine. Basically, you have to write this about the natural history of disease, and then about the prevention. Please, the lectures possibly I will reach only till primordial prevention, but these lectures are very very important, and primordial prevention is the favorite of all examiners. Every examiner wants to ask primordial prevention, so I will be covering primordial prevention in a little bit of detail so that you all are able to answer those questions. So this particular table is something which you must remember. Whenever you have an infection taking place, after the infection, the patient goes through a stage which we call pre-pathogenesis stage. That means before pathogenesis takes place. After the pathogenesis is set in, there's the second stage of the disease, and the second stage of during the pathogenesis stage, either there can be an acute illness, and then he will die, or he will get treated, or it will go into a chronic state. Now, even if in an acute or in a chronic case, the person may go into some sort of problems during that phase of disease, and this can result in disability to the person. And this disability may either result in, I mean, disability can be just that he is feeling unwell and he is having severe fever and all that, so he is in bed. Or disability can be that he goes into complication and that results in his death, or he recovers. Okay, so basically not a very very complicated table. What you have to remember is that in the pre-pathogenesis stage is the agent host environment which are acting on the individual. So put that triangle over there. And in the pathogenesis stage, either a person goes into chronic or goes into death. If he goes into is the acute phase, he may be in acute or chronic stage, he may be disabled, or he will definitely have some signs and symptoms. It depends on when he develops this signs and symptoms. When the infection becomes so much that it goes above the clinical horizon, then he'll get signs and symptoms. So these are catchwords which you can put into your table. So we mentioned about this pre-pathogenesis stage and the pathogenesis stage. Epidermal triad interactions, disease manifests. So if you really look at the spectrum of health, again comes as a short note again. So I want to just cover it, though I'm not very fond of this particular question. So the spectrum of health means health, from where to where is health or disease. Either you can be healthy or disease. Now, in healthy, you can be positive health, that means you are absolutely healthy, no problem at all, or you can be better health as they call it, and or you can just say that person is free from sickness, free from sickness. The other side of the spectrum, you have a person who has been infected, but he is not yet disease, so unrecognized disease. Then he has mild disease, then he has severe disease, and finally he dies. Okay, that is what is the spectrum. So disease also can come suddenly, or it can come slowly. There's insidious answers like malaria and all. Is very, very insidious. Or COVID comes as acute onset. The disease can remain in persons without showing symptoms, and that becomes a problem because the person has a carrier state. Carrier state itself is a separate lecture in itself. We'll just cover it in short, saying that any person who is infected and not showing symptoms is a carrier. Carrier. And the famous example of typhoid Mary, a cook who was serving so many people, went on cooking in different places, passing on the disease. The same organism, many diseases, same disease, many organisms also can be, or there can be borderline disease. These are various types of disease. Okay. Now, another important word which we keep using, risk factors. Okay. Very, very important from the examination point of view, risk factors. What is a risk factor? A risk factor basically is a factor which can cause your disease. Everybody has COVID. I mean, sorry, there's COVID is there in the environment. Yeah. So now, why is it person A gets it and person B does not get it? Person A gets it because he has got some factors with him which can result in him getting the disease. And these factors are called risk factors. Simple. So an attribute or exposure that is significantly associated with development of disease. Angreji hai. Basically, if two persons are there who have got the same, who are exposed to the same infection, one gets it, one doesn't get it. Why does he not get it? Because this particular person has something in him, some risk factor in him by which he is getting the disease. So this factor which causes him to get the disease is called a risk factor. So now these risk factors can be modifiable and non-modifiable. Now you have, take a person with diabetes. If he has got a gene which causes diabetes, you cannot modify it. In today's technology, there are a lot of things going on by which possibly when you become an old man, by that time you will find that you may be able to modify. But today it is non-modifiable. If a person A has got a gene which will give him diabetes, he will develop diabetes. He will develop diabetes. So it is non-modifiable. While now if there are individuals, if this individual who has a risk factor or an individual who doesn't have a non-modifiable risk factor, if he has a poor lifestyle, he eats heavily, doesn't exercise, eats lots of fats and lots of sugars and everything, and has a life which is full of all these things, then the chances of him getting disease or the modifiable risk factors which are there are high in this particular case. Not necessarily that he'll get the disease. He still requires a sort of a gene which can possibly accept these particular factors in making him have the disease. So modifiable risk factors and non-modifiable risk factors. There are some things, like I said again, the gene is already there for diabetes, and he ensures that he has a very good lifestyle. Then the person may not develop a severe disease, while another person with the same gene but has a poor lifestyle, this is what is called an additive or a synergistic factor, can cause the disease to come in much earlier. So in community medicine, we go in for what we call the risk approach. So a person, what we will do is we will try and find out how many of these individuals have got genes which can result in diabetes. Now we have seen this particular group which is which we have, which has got this risk factor which is non-modifiable, we will take this risk group and we will tell them, listen, you people require to take extra caution. This is what we call the risk approach. The risk approach, we go and see those who are needy, we will go in for them, we will target them. Now there are again three factors, three words which are used by us and again comes in the exam number of times. One is control, one is elimination, one is eradication. Okay, three words. So we will try and clear your cobwebs on this particular thing. What is control? What is elimination? What is eradication? Now, control, as you see, what happens is whenever you have a disease and you want to control, you want that disease you want to decrease. Every time you cannot say that you will not have this disease at all. You want, when the disease is very heavily into society, you want to control it. Today COVID is all over. Are we thinking of eradicating COVID? No, we are thinking that we will bring COVID into a state where there will be less number of cases. That is what is control. So the basis behind disease control depends on the incidence of the disease and the duration of the disease and risk of transmission which is there. The effects of infection including physical and psychosocial complications and the financial burden to the huge financial burden which is taking place from COVID. Isn't it? All economies have gone for a 6. So we are ready to put in money to get a vaccine or some other thing so that we can bring this disease into a state where we will not suffer from economic loss. So for doing that, that is what we call a control. We're going to bring the disease to a level where it will not bring economic loss. So in this case, the COVID will continue to remain in the community at a level where it will not have so much of a public health problem. Once we reach a state where this particular thing does not have a severe problem or economy is not distorted, then we say that the disease is under control. Then the next word is elimination. Elimination also is when we want to make the disease we want that the disease is not a public health problem. But more importantly is, again I will go back to COVID, when COVID will come under such a situation where the R naught will be very poor, there will be an interruption in the transmission of the disease. That is the time we will say, or we will be able to say that out of the 600 districts which are there in our country, we have 40 districts where there is no COVID, a regional elimination of the disease, or the amount of disease which is there is less than say 0.1 per thousand. Then we have come to a situation where we have eliminated the disease. Elimination is always the first is control, then we come to an elimination state, and then we come to an eradication state. These are steps in the eradication of the disease. And what happens in eradication? Eradication is basically tear out by the roots. This termination of all transmission of infection by exterminating the infectious agent. So can you tell me which are the diseases which have been eliminated from our country? Which are the diseases which are controlled? Which are the diseases which are eliminated? Which are the diseases which are eradicated? This is a example. This is a thing which will be constantly asked to you in your viva. Constantly asked to you. So first thing, which are the diseases which are eradicated? Eradicated, when we talk about eradication, we have one very classical example of eradication from the world of smallpox. Smallpox eradication took place. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. We had vaccinations done and lot of things. We'll talk about it for hours together. The next disease which we saw, which was eradicated from this region or from the country, is yaws. We'll not go into details about that. We also eradicated another disease called guinea worm infestation. So please read up about yaws and guinea worm infestations, which how we eradicated them. Now we are targeting eradication of poliomyelitis. Today we have eliminated or rather eradicated it from our country. Have we eradicated it or have we eliminated it? Let us look at it. Now let us go through the elimination portion. What was elimination? Regional level. In India we have removed it. We have removed it from India. But didn't we hear that sometime back we had some sort of virus which was found in the sewage? So the disease is still lingering on. How did that come? That came actually from a vaccine. We've got live vaccines now. Live vaccines. So the virus is still there. So there is interruption of transmission. There is a regional elimination. So disease is definitely eliminated. Agreed. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see. Is the disease eradicated? Have you torn it out by the roots? Is the termination of all transmission of infection by extermination of the infection. Very important. Underline this line. Extermination of the infectious agent is there. The infectious agent is there because of the fact we're using it in the vaccine. So we cannot use literally the word disease eradication. So what do we need to do for removing the word, bringing eradication? We need to remove this live vaccine and get in a killed vaccine. So that the live vaccine, like the extermination of the polio virus takes place. And that is exactly what we are doing. We are shifting now from oral polio vaccine to IPV. Please remember the schedule of immunization. When is IPV given? I wish you all were in front of me so that I could catch you and ask you this question. When is IPV given? IPV is to be given almost at similar times as OPV. That is during the 6, 10, 14 weeks. 6, 10, 14 weeks IPV is to be given. OPV is not being stopped. Huge, that's a full chapter in itself. I'll not go into details about it. Very important now, this portion, what we are going to talk about, the levels of prevention. We talked about the various stages of the disease. Okay, now should we go in for levels of prevention or should we go, we'll take it for next class? Yes, Ritika, should we go in for it or next class? We've got time. We'll cover primordial prevention at least. Primordial prevention. See, primordial prevention, whenever you have disease, let's put it this way. You had the pre-pathogenesis stage and the pathogenesis stage. That means pre-pathogenesis, before the infection takes place. Before the infection takes place is what we call the primary prevention. We have to do it before infection takes place. Primary is before. Okay, first. Primary is first. What is primordial? So we never had, when I was in medical college, we never talked about primordial prevention. Primordial prevention is a newer concept where we say that we talked about the risk factors. So if the risk factors are not there in society, if smoking is a risk factor, correct, in many diseases. If there was no cigarette, where would a person smoke? So that would be primordial prevention. You don't have a cigarette at all, so where is the question of a person smoking? In primary prevention, we will say stop the person from smoking. But in primordial prevention, we will say don't have the cigarette at all. Okay, so that is what primordial prevention and primary prevention, before the infection or the state comes into the body where the person can get a disease. Secondary and tertiary prevention is after the person gets the infection or gets the disease. Let's go and see it here. Very simply put over here, you have the pre-pathogenesis stage where we put only the primary prevention, but it is primary, and first the primordial prevention, then the primary prevention. After the disease, the pathogenesis stage, you have the secondary prevention and the tertiary prevention. So, what is there in primary prevention? Primordial we'll talk about a little later. Primary prevention, we got health promotion and specific protection. Health promotion and specific protection. We'll talk about it in detail. And in secondary prevention, we have got early diagnosis and treatment, disability limitation, and rehabilitation. These are the different portions. We'll talk about each of them in detail. I'll just cover, as I said, I'll just cover primordial prevention. As I said, before a risk factor develops in a community, to cut it off is what we call primordial prevention. Very important in chronic diseases. So, definition also says prevention of the emergence of or development of risk factors in a population groups where they have not yet appeared. So, if it has appeared, then you can't do primordial prevention. Is primordial prevention possible in all diseases? No, because if the risk factor is already there in the community, you cannot do primordial prevention. So, what does it involve? It involves individual or mass education, involves environmental modifications, involves a lot of things which are there. It's the purest, the prevention in the purest form. Emerging risk factors should be stopped. So, if from childhood itself you keep cigarettes away from a person, so he will never develop the chance of uh, looking at smoking. Or, for example, right from childhood, the person in that house, there is only healthy food being served. He will never think of going in for unhealthy food later on. Or you have a person right from childhood is told ki you must run every day. I mean, initially start off with 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, and keep on running. I see a lot of children nowadays running, a very good habit, very good habit. That is primordial prevention. Will prevent a lot of diseases. So, good socioeconomic uh, status itself is a primordial prevention against malnutrition. If you have, for example, a person who is born in a poor family, in a migrant family today, these migrants who are there in Bihar and all these places, their economic status is so poor, even if you tell them to eat good food, they will not eat. So they're going to go into malnutrition. You improve their socioeconomic status, which is a form of primordial prevention, and they will eat better. Or the opposite side, where you have fat intake or increased junk food or low fiber foods, you train the people right from the beginning. Don't have India can ban junk foods. That will be a primordial prevention. India could have. We can ensure that everybody there is no tobacco grown in this country. There will be no cigarettes. So all these things can prevent obesity, coronary artery disease, and hypertension. Yeah, we talked about smoking and drinking. If, like for example, in many states they have tried the system of banning alcohol, though it has never been successful because of the fact that other states have alcohol and then there is smuggling going on into that state, so it creates a problem. So either you do not produce alcohol in this country, don't cultivate tobacco in this country. That will be primordial prevention. So the development of unhealthy lifestyle will be stopped. Um, so you will have more of a problem. If it is done right from childhood, you'll have lots of benefits. Physical activity again, right from sports in schools, etc. Don't go in for this mobile. This is the cause today of a large number of diseases, large number of diseases. Rather, it is one of the questions which one should always prepare for. What are the diseases caused by mobiles or social media? The girl child's health. This is another thing which is there with so much of female infanticide. Why? Because in India we have the system of the priority be given to the male child, and I blame a large portion of women for it, because it is the woman itself who wants a male child. And you find, why do they want a male child? They want a male child so that they can carry on their progeny. They want a male. Who is bothered about carrying out your progeny once you are 6 foot under the ground, or once you've been burnt? I really don't understand. And you want a male child because of the fact. Let me tell you this: I have got a daughter, and I find that it is much better to have a daughter who is doting than to have a son. Not that my son is not doting, but you have a son who carries on the progeny. So a girl child, the girl children are malnourished. They are more malnourished. They suffer. There is, and the problem is also because of low birth weights. So a girl child is fed poorly, becomes a poor mother. She is fed, even as a mother, she's fed very poorly, and then because of that, she gives a low birth weight, and this vicious cycle continues. Okay, I will stop here. Primary prevention, we will cover primary, secondary prevention, and then we will be talking also about uh, what do we talk about? We talk further about the various indicators of health. So please read up, and we'll cover it in the next lecture whenever I get a lecture. Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll stop this. This is a new one. There's no video. Eh? Why? Only sound. That's why I went and asked them. They said, yeah, there is no video. And only, I mean, your videos.